What if the best way to win wasn't about fighting harder, but about being smarter? Today, we're going to dive into a timeless strategy for completely outmaneuvering your opponents. And our guide? It's a deceptively simple fable about an owl and a grasshopper.
So let's just kick things off with a question that, let's be honest, we've all faced. What do you do when you're dealing with a huge nuisance, but you know that getting into a direct fight is only going to make things a whole lot worse?
You know the situations I'm talking about. At work, maybe online, maybe even with a neighbor. Sometimes going on the attack just totally backfires. You need a different kind of power. And that, my friends, is where cunning comes in. We're about to see how an ancient story gives us a brilliant solution. It shows us how to trade in that brute force for a tool that's much sharper and way more effective.
So where does our answer come from? An old fable from Aesop. But trust me, this is way more than just some bedtime story for kids. This is practically a blueprint for victory.
Just as a quick refresher, Aesop's fables are those classic ancient Greek stories, right? They use animals to teach us some, let's call them pointed lessons about our own screw-ups, both strategically and morally.
Okay, let's meet our players. This is where it gets really interesting because it's such a classic conflict. On one side, you have the owl, old, wise, patient, strategic. And on the other side, the grasshopper, all youthful arrogance and, well, let's just say he's a real sucker for a compliment. This is a straight-up clash between experience and ego.
So here's the scene. It's a warm afternoon. Our old owl is just trying to get some sleep. But of course, right outside her hollow tree, a grasshopper decides it's the perfect time to start screeching out this horrible, grating song. It's loud, it's annoying, and it's right in her ear.
So the owl's first move? Direct confrontation. She comes out, she's clearly angry, and she basically says, "Hey, have some manners, I'm older than you, show some respect, and let me sleep." This is her opening strategy, and spoiler alert, it's a total failure.
And the grasshopper? Oh, he's not having any of it. He's full of himself, right? So he snaps back that he's got just as much right to be there as she does. Then, just to prove a point, he doubles down. He starts singing even louder. He actually escalates the conflict. And this right here, this is the crucial moment. The wise old owl immediately gets it. She realizes two things. One, arguing with this guy is pointless. And two, her eyesight is so bad in the daylight, she can't just physically force him to stop. Her first plan is a bust. It is time for a major pivot.
And wow, what a pivot. She just completely drops the anger. It's gone. And instead, she puts on this tone of calculated charm. She flips from being his enemy to suddenly acting like she's his biggest fan.
Now the trap is set, and it is a thing of beauty. She doesn't just say, "Hey, nice song." No. She lures him with an offer he can't refuse. She invites him up for some magnificent wine that she claims will make him sing like a god, literally like Apollo. I mean, how could his ego possibly say no to that? And the result is swift and brutal. The foolish grasshopper, totally blinded by all this praise, just hops right on into the owl's den. The second he's close enough for her to see him clearly, gulp, he's gone. His need for validation was way stronger than his instinct for survival.
So, the owl won. But how? Let's break down exactly why this tactic, this weapon of flattery, was so devastatingly effective.
See, this wasn't an accident. It was a calculated four-step process. First, she suppressed her own anger. That's key. Second, she took stock of her own weaknesses. Third, she found her opponent's key vulnerability, his massive ego. And finally, she deployed praise as a weapon with absolute precision.
And this insight is really the whole lesson here, isn't it? The grasshopper never saw the attack coming because it was wrapped in the one thing he desperately wanted to hear: vanity. It can be a fatal blind spot.
Okay, so, great story. But you're probably wondering how a 2,500-year-old fable actually applies to your life today. Well, you'd be surprised. The dynamics are shockingly modern.
Let's make this really practical. Think about an online troll. Arguing back is exactly what they want. That's the grasshopper move. The owl's gambit? Offer a specific, disarming compliment about something else they've done. Or a noisy neighbor? Yelling at them just creates an enemy, but complimenting their garden to build rapport before you ask for quiet? Totally different story. A disruptive colleague? Instead of fighting them, give them a high-profile task with tons of praise to redirect that ego. In every case, you're not fighting the ego, you're using it.
And on the flip side, Here are the exact traps the grasshopper fell into. These are huge warnings for us. Don't just assume every compliment is genuine. Don't let someone provoke you into an angry reaction. Never, ever underestimate the power of ego. And most importantly, pay very close attention when an opponent suddenly starts acting like your biggest fan.
So now that you know how the strategy works, let's talk about the most important part: how to defend yourself. How do you avoid being the grasshopper in this situation?
Your defense really comes down to self-awareness and emotional discipline. It's about being a little skeptical of praise, especially from rivals. It's about controlling your own reactions when you're provoked, and it means your self-worth has to come from what you know to be true, not from what other people are telling you. Basically, you have to become the owl in your own mind.
When you boil it all down, the entire strategy, both the attack and the defense, it all hinges on this one powerful human vulnerability: vanity. That is the key that unlocks the whole trap. So here's the final practical takeaway. Think of this as your personal early warning system. The moment an opponent switches from being hostile to showering you with praise, that is a massive red flag. That's your cue to step back and check just how close you are to the trap.
And so we'll leave you with this final question. Who in your life is offering you that magnificent wine, and what do they really want? It's all about being wise enough to see the trap, no matter how beautifully it's packaged.